Testified in front of the House. Want to get to the CME Group in Chicago. Hey, Rick.
Hello there, Carl, and I'd like to welcome our guest, Ohio Congressman Jordan. Welcome, Congressman.
Good with you, Rick.
Listen, I want to cover 3 or 4 things quickly and then talk about the markets. First of all, am I correct that the sequester was born of the Budget Control Act of 2011, correct?
Sure, it was, yes.
And I know that Bob Woodward's been taking a ton of grief as to who originally hatched the idea, but it certainly seems like it was newly nominated Jack Lew, Treasury Secretary.
Yeah.
I've been looking at this in depth, and it's not easy reading, but I noticed a section called Section 255, Programmed Exemptions. Are you aware of that section?
Vaguely, yes. It's been 2 years since this thing passed, and I didn't support it when it passed, but vaguely, go ahead.
It just seems to me that I know the president has the bully pulpit. All presidents do, and he's entitled. Yeah. But it certainly seems like a lot of the things he's talking about, from child nutrition and educational programs and aspects of other entitlements, that a lot of those seem to be exempted. Am I wrong?
Yeah, no, they're exempt, and, you know, he's out there trying to scare the American people. But the fact is, you got to look at the positive. We're on the verge of achieving $85 billion in savings for the taxpayers and families of this country. That's a good thing. Would I have preferred it not hit national defense the way it does? Certainly. We voted to change that portion of it. But the fact is, we're in debt. We need to cut spending. We need to achieve some savings, and we're going to do that tomorrow. And my guess is tomorrow the sun will come up. You know, the world's not going to end. And we found out yesterday, Rick, that even the Secretary of Education was misleading the American people when he said teachers are getting pink slips because of the so-called sequester. It's not happening. It was proved not true, and yet he's out there saying that. I don't know why
I
a president would do
actually read about that too, Congressman. You know, the Sunday shows seem to always get a spin that doesn't hold up on Monday. All right, now let's go to the markets. I'm a market guy. I'm in the bastion of capitalism at the CME Group in Chicago. You know, when we listened to Ben Bernanke yesterday, he made a comment that we may not reach like 6.5% unemployment rate till 2015, 2016, and the market rallied. Yeah. So I don't know if I could look at the market to have a logical, you know, these traders just want to make money. How do you think market participants ought to look at the sequester? What are your thoughts, and what do you think the market movement would mean to politicians in general?
Well, I mean, just what I said before. This is a good first step. The president wants to say, oh, the world's going to end, everything's going to be terrible. This is only 2.4% of the entire federal budget. There have been all kinds of families, all kinds of business owners who've had to sequester a lot more than 2.4% of their budget. So this is just a good first step in starting to address this $16 trillion problem we have. My concern with the Fed, frankly, is Ben Bernanke's policies are financing Barack Obama's spending, because the Feds, with the cheap dollar policy, are making it so that we're only spending $224 billion in interest payments to service that huge debt this year, where if interest rates, now think about this, Rick, and I know you know this, if interest rates were where they were before the crisis, back in 2007, we'd be spending about $800 billion in interest payments to service that kind of debt. That's what scares me more than anything.
You're preaching to the choir, and I understand that some of the issues of solvency in Europe might have pushed rates down a bit as well. I agree with your point. One final question, real quickly, yes or no? Do you think there's going to be a last-minute deal like there was at the end of 2011 and 2012?
No, not at all. And if there's an attempt to do that, you will see me and a bunch of other conservatives going strongly against it. So I don't think it's going to happen. I think our leadership's been clear about this, and I applaud them for doing that. We've been pushing them to do that. We got to have this happen.
Thanks, Congressman, for being our guest.